to managing your money, you either need to learn how to be an expert or work with an expert to make sure you're on the right path. So how do you actually find that advice? Because that's something I get often asked is, who do I actually go to? Well, I think the first thing is about to be clear about what sort of advice you actually want. Because a lot of people, accountants and financial planners, there's often an overlap because people think that they both deal with money, so therefore they can go to either one or the other, whereas in reality they've got quite distinctive areas that they deal with. So maybe the first thing you need to sit down and say, well, what sort of advice do I actually need and what am I trying to achieve from getting that advice? The next thing I'd look at is, okay, look for some referrals. Ask your friends, family, your work colleagues for some people that they work with that they've had really good results from. Don't just open up the yellow pages and say, okay, well, this person lives 3 blocks from where I live, so let's choose them. It's more appropriate that you actually try to find the professional that suits what your needs are. Next thing, look at their qualifications. What sort of degrees do they have? How long have they worked in the industry? What sort of experience do they actually have? Are there certain boards or bodies that they belong to? Do they have certain specialisations? Because I guess it's a bit like going, the GP versus the specialist heart surgeon. What sort of advice, what sort of level of advice do you actually need? Ask them, how do they actually work? Do they come to you? Do you have to go to them? How do they charge? Do they charge for the first consultation, or do they give you a free consultation? Everyone works differently, and I think it's a really good idea to just ask those questions before you go and see that particular person. Interview them, which is an interesting concept, because you've got to remember that those people are actually working for you. So you want to make sure you get the best possible advice and the best possible person for you. And interestingly, I've interviewed both my lawyer and my accountant and said, okay, well, what are you actually going to do for me? And I fired a bunch of questions off to them, and they still laugh about this. Because they sort of said to me at the time, I feel like I'm on an interview, and it's like, well, you are. Don't just accept because they are, an accountant or are a lawyer or are a financial planner that they are actually the right person for you. Take them through an interview process and see whether they are the right person for you. And the next thing that's really important is you've got to feel comfortable with those people. Because I guess what I often find is that people say, well, I sat down with my lawyer who said this and I really didn't understand what they said to me. It's really important that you feel comfortable enough with your advisors that you can say, look, I don't get it. You need to explain it to me in English because I really don't understand what you're saying to me, rather than walking out of their office feeling more confused than when you went in. But if you don't give them feedback that you don't understand it, they're not mind readers, they don't know. So it's absolutely important that you just feel really comfortable with your advisors, that you trust them, that you can feel you can be honest with them, you like them. And as I say, if you're not comfortable with the advice or don't understand the advice that's been given, you do ask the questions so that you do understand. So again, coming back to it, you've either got to learn to become an expert yourself, which takes a significant amount of time and energy, or work with an advisor. And one of the challenges we have in New Zealand is we have a bit of a DIY sort of mentality. And it's interesting because there's been some research that basically says that 2/3 of people in New Zealand get their financial advice from their friends and family, their cousins, their uncles, their neighbour over the back fence, their colleagues at work. But yet 2/3 of New Zealanders live on pretty much the pension as an income over the age of 65. So you've got to ask yourself, are we actually getting the right advice from the right type of people?